Real people, real lives, and real crimes. Crime Stories Obsessed. In November, the bodies of 4 university students were discovered in their near-campus home. A student called 911 to report an unconscious individual at the time, and authorities described the killings as a crime of passion, calling the incident an isolated targeted attack with an edged weapon. The county coroner later ruled all 4 deaths homicide by stabbing. And on the 30th of December, more than 6 weeks after the killings, police arrested criminology graduate, student Bryan Kohberger, aged 28. The night before the attack, Chapin and Knodel had reportedly been at a party, while Madeline Mogan and Kayla Gonzalez had gone to a bar downtown, with a video live stream showing the 2 women ordering from a food truck around 1:45 a.m. on the way home. The 4 friends gathered at the house at a large rental property that police say showed no signs of forced entry. Officers found the doors open when they first arrived at the scene several hours after the murders took place. Following the killings, police initially said that they had not identified a suspect and said that the murder was possibly a crime of passion with an edged weapon. The murders took place the same day that a gunman killed 3 students at the University of Virginia, left the university students of Idaho community on edge following the killings after students living in the neighborhood said that they were leaving town, citing anxiety and uncertainty over what had transpired. Everybody kind of just went back home, they said. A lot were scared. It was definitely uneasy on campus, one said. And in December, police said they wanted to speak with the driver of the white Elantra seen nearby the killings. The FBI reportedly tracked Kohberger and his father from Washington to Pennsylvania and said Indiana cops had to pull him over to secure images of his hands. Indiana authorities pulled Kohberger over twice on December the 15th. First, a deputy from the Hancock Sheriff's Office Department stopped him for following another vehicle too closely while driving the Elantra. Indiana State Police said at the time there was no information available on the suspect for the crime in Idaho, and 9 minutes later a state trooper stopped Kohberger but let him go with a warning after he heard that Kohberger had stopped a few minutes earlier. The look on Kohberger's face at the time was a look of horror. According to unsealed court documents and a probable cause affidavit, one of the surviving roommates, Dylan Mortensen, heard crying in the house the morning of the murders and saw a man dressed clad in black walking past. The unsealed court documents revealed unsettling details from Kohberger's phone records, which indicated that his phone had stopped responding to the network at 2:47 a.m. on the morning of the murders and was turned back on at 4:48 a.m. Further phone records reveal that Kohberger had been near the victim's home at least 12 times. Bryan Kohberger made his first Idaho state appearance in January. That he smiled at his public defense attorney and avoided making eye contact with anyone else, including the victim's family members, many of whom were crying in the front row. And at the time, the judge upheld the prosecutor's request for a no-contact order for the victim's family members and 2 surviving roommates of 2 years and denied Kohberger bail. The suspect returned to court 1 week later, where he waived his right to a speedy trial, and public defender Ann Taylor reportedly told the judge that she wanted more time to review evidence, and prosecutor Bill Thompson had no objections. The judge scheduled a preliminary cause hearing for June the 26th, and in the meantime, Kohberger will remain in custody without bond. According to a lawyer for the Gonzalez's family, they say that they have been searching for a potential connection between Kohberger and the victims, but so far none has surfaced. They didn't know him, the lawyer said. An investigator with knowledge of the case said that 2 weeks before the killings, Kohberger reportedly sent one of the victims a message on Instagram. The source claimed that when she did not respond, he sent several more. He slid into one of the girl's DMs several times, but she didn't respond, said the source. Hey, how are you? But he did it again and again. Meanwhile, old posts Kohberger made as a teenager online forum at Tap Talk stated that he was experiencing suicidal thoughts and a lack of remorse, inability to feel emotions, and felt like a sack of meat with no self-worth. The 16-year-old Kohberger wrote in 2011 that as I hug my family, I look into their faces, I see nothing. It's like I'm looking at a video game, but less. Kohberger made posts about invisible snow, a neurological condition in which small flicking dots disturb a person's field of vision, which, per the posts, he started experiencing in 2009. The same time he stopped feeling emotions. Nothing I do is enjoyable, he reported. I am blank. I have no opinion. I have no emotion. I have nothing. Can you relate? He asked. Kohberger exhibited such unsettling behaviour on campus in the weeks around the killings, and other students stated that he was quite chatty in class, but when discussing the Idaho murders, he sat back and did not say anything. The university investigated his conduct with women and eventually fired him from his teaching assistant job over concerns regarding his professional conduct. A subsequent university investigation didn't find Kohberger guilty of any wrongdoing, but that the Criminal Justice Department had fired Kohberger because of his poor performance as a teaching assistant and unable to meet the norms of professional behaviour. It also included 2 alleged altercations with the professor he'd been assisting in the fall. The department claimed he had not made any progress regarding his professionalism. And while Kohberger awaits trial, the house where the murders occurred has been donated to the University of Idaho, which plans to demolish it. In an email sent to students and the facility in February, the university president, Scott Green, called for the demolition as a healing step. He added, the tearing down of the house removes the physical structure where the crime that shook our community was committed. He referenced plans to build something new on the land, writing that students may be involved in the future developments of the property. Bryan Kohberger's defense team blasted grotesquely twisted media coverage of the Idaho student stabbings case that left 4 university undergraduates dead in November. Kohberger, 28-year-old, who was studying criminology at the Washington State University, is now accused of ambushing the 4 in their beds around 4 a.m. after they'd returned home from a night out with friends. The case garnered national attention as police went almost 2 months without publicly identifying a suspect and not releasing any clear motive. Ann Taylor is now opposing a request from the Associated Press and other media organizations asking the Idaho Supreme Court to order the Latah County Court to lift the gag order on the case. In court filings made public Friday, someone writing for Taylor's office argued that the media group's efforts were without merit. What the media really seeks here is a procedural victory, knowing full well it cannot win on the merits of any test given and grotesquely twisted nature of the media coverage that has occurred thus so far. He also argued that the Associated Press and other outlets should have first challenged the order in the Latah County Magistrates Court, instead of going straight to the state Supreme Court. This court should find that the petitioners failed to raise their issues before the Magistrates Court in the first instance. Further, this court should find that the second part of the amended order on this matter merely echoes the ethical rules already binding on the attorneys and their agents and required no additional consideration or findings to be entered. Bryan, the criminology student candidate accused of stabbing the 4 Idaho students to death in November, could face execution by firing squad if he is convicted of the murders, and a bill produced this week clears the Idaho state legislation. The language of the gag order does mirror Idaho's rules of professional conduct. However, authorities and attorneys for both sides have declined to answer virtually all inquiries from the media since it was imposed, even on topics they are allowed to speak on. And separately, Taylor is opposing an appeal from the attorney for one of the victims' families, who called it facially overboard and vague. Kohberger was led away at the end of the hearing in the Idaho County District Court on the 5th of January and had been arrested prior for the murders of the university students. The Idaho County prosecutor is also supportive of keeping the order in place. The real question is, do the media and the people have a right to know? A criminal profiler and psychotherapist who has interviewed serial killers and followed the case closely. Taylor, who is permitted under the order to speak on strictly regulated topics, has not responded to the multiple requests for comment over the past 2 months and did not respond to requests for comment, including before Judge Megan Marshall put the gag order in place. Police reportedly found pictures of one of the 4 victims on Bryan Kohberger's phone in December after the arrest. Taylor can comment on matters not covered by the gag order or on publicly filed documents and facts contained therein. And Taylor's office is tasked with defending Kohberger against 4 charges of first-degree murder, for which he could face the death penalty if convicted, plus 1 burglary count. The judge is doing the cautious thing and siding with the defense to avoid an issue. As for the challenges against the gag order, it was said that experts in the media group's request to have a better chance than Gonzalez's attorney. Because Gray is representing the Gonzalez family and the family members may be witnesses at the trial or the penalty phase, Gray's challenge will probably fail. Kohberger is due back in court on the 26th of June. And the Pennsylvania search warrant documents unsealed this week revealed that authorities seized weapons and other items in the December raid of the murder suspect Bryan Kohberger's parents' home. Kohberger is accused of killing all 4 students. It was said that they confiscated knives, a gun, black clothing, medical-style gloves, masks, among other items. The victim's roommate, who was in the Moscow home at the time of the murders, described the suspect as clad in black clothing with a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose. Investigators also seized and later dismantled the 2015 Hyundai Elantra that Kohberger drove. Authorities said that the car matched the vehicle seen in surveillance footage close to where the murders took place. Authorities also retrieved DNA swabs from Kohberger on the day of the search. The violent deaths in Moscow shocked the community and sent waves of panic through the students in the surrounding areas at the time. A motive for the crimes has not been revealed. Kohberger is expected to enter a plea, possibly not guilty, and that will be before the Idaho County. A preliminary hearing is scheduled to begin in June. Real people, real lives, and real crimes. Crime Stories Obsessed.